As I opened the door slowly and peered through, I saw Tails the fox looking at me with fear in his eyes. His time had come, and soon so will have I. As I approached him with a butcher's knife in my hand, he pleadingly asked me what I was going to do with him. I gently rubbed the tip of the knife around his stomach, and squealed as his blood trickled down his body. "I'm going to cut you open and have sex with your wounds," I told him. He looked at me with intense fright, his twin tails quivering with fear as I plunged my blade deeper into his stomach, churning it inside, feeling his intestines wrap around my arm, which was now submerged into his vital organs. The putrid aroma of his insides filled the room, and he let out a deafening scream, which merely fueled my raging erection. "Why are you doing this?" he cried, as he watched his blood spurt out in all directions. I placed my hand over his mouth to muffle his cries, and his eyes filled with tears as I unleashed my gargantuan slong. I removed my arm and knife from the innards of his fragile body, and he limped forward, writhing in pain. I dragged him back up by the yellow hairs on his head, and shoved all of my 13-inch length and 2-inch girth of my huge chocolate penis into his mouth. He couldn't breathe, and the more I thrusted, the more I could feel the back of his throat breaking from the tension. I unloaded my gallon of white, milky cum into his mouth, and it overflowed over his delicate lips and all over the floor. He was so tired that he fell over, and his face plummeted into the puddle of sweet, sweet jizz. He lifted his head, gasping for air, wishing his hero Sonic was here to save the day. He wasn't. I dragged Tails up to his feet and stabbed him once more, this time penetrating the knife straight through his body so that it became stuck to the wall by the blade. I grabbed both of his legs and ripped them in opposite directions, creating a blood-infested hole where his penis once was. And then, with the force of 1,000 buffaloes stampeding, I allowed my huge horse cock to ravage the area, popping his insides one organ at a time as the blood squelched around my throbbing cock. He began to drool and his eyes started closing. I didn't appreciate the lack of eye contact, so I ripped out his eyes and stapled them to the wall next to him, blood still gushing out of his stomach every time I inserted my penis into the man-made hole I had created. With one final thrust, I came bucket loads inside, and it oozed out of all his holes like a sprinkler effect. Tails dropped to the floor lifeless, and I continued to Shadow's house.